Somewhere in the city of New York, the peaceful streets are disturbed by a suspicious black car and a gentleman who looks like he's having a serious case of constipation. It turns out that a group of criminals is robbing a jewelry store while beating up a security guard who is obviously underpaid. They grab everything they can and rush out to the car, trying to get away quickly before the police arrive. What they don't realize is that a superpowered entity is heading their way. Before they can celebrate their victory, the car is lifted into the air. The superhero takes the vehicle across the sky and dumps it right in front of the police station. The woman flies away into the air while everyone cheers for their hero, known as G-Girl. The superhero's good deeds quickly spread through the news, catching the attention of Matthew and his best friend, Vaughn, who seems unable to stop obsessing over women for more than 7 seconds. Their conversation is interrupted when Vaughn notices a beautiful woman who looks like a conservative librarian, but radiates an air of unexpected confidence. Vaughn urges Matthew to go flirt with her, eventually convincing him to embarrass himself for everyone's amusement. Matthew tries to start a conversation, but is met with a soul-sucking glare and a big, fat no before he even finishes speaking. Luckily, before the humiliation can deepen, a thief grabs the woman's purse and runs quickly toward the door. Without thinking, Matthew gives chase. The criminal rushes past the people in the station and makes it onto the streets, but Matthew doesn't give up. His determination, driven by the hope of impressing the woman, outweighs his sense of dignity. The thief eventually crashes into a car, forcing him to abandon the bag. Matthew grabs the purse triumphantly, mocking the thief and pretending to be an alpha male. However, the thief, angered by Matthew's taunts, returns to confront him. Realizing he's outmatched, Matthew panics and runs away, diving into a garbage bin like a desperate raccoon. The thief starts hammering on the bin, shaking it violently. Matthew jumps out, ready to fight, but sees no one except the woman, who looks thoroughly confused by his choice of hiding spot. Holding up the purse as if he'd just won the lottery, Matthew returns it to her. She introduces herself as Jenny and, to his surprise, agrees to have dinner with him that evening. It's quickly revealed that Jenny is actually the superhero G-Girl. As Matthew basks in his small victory, the purse thief is seen dangling from a lamppost for the police to find. Matthew returns to work at his architectural firm, where a beautiful woman named Hannah clearly has a crush on him. Matthew also finds himself very attracted to her, often sneaking glances at her. Unfortunately, their man-hating boss walks in at the worst possible time and exposes Matthew as a secret pervert. Later that night, Matthew goes on a date with Jenny. Their conversation quickly veers into awkward territory as they joke about third base, despite Jenny insisting that she is very conservative. The uncomfortable banter is cut short when Jenny hears police sirens outside. Excusing herself to the bathroom, Jenny leaves Matthew feeling confused and embarrassed. He even wonders if she noticed him quietly passing gas under the table. Unsure of what to do, Matthew calls Vaughn for advice, but Vaughn is distracted by the sight of burning buildings on the street. Suddenly, G-Girl flies down from the sky. Spinning at incredible speed, she creates a massive tornado that extinguishes the fire in seconds. Now covered in soot, she quickly flies away as the crowd cheers her name. Moments later, Jenny returns to the restaurant and apologizes to Matthew for her long absence. However, Matthew notices a smudge on her face that seems out of place. Trying to divert his attention, Jenny decides to turn up the charm. That night, their date takes an intimate turn as they begin kissing passionately. Jenny climbs onto Matthew with surprising intensity, and they make their way to the bedroom, where she demonstrates her favorite exercise. Unbeknownst to them, a strange mechanical bird is perched outside their window, its robotic eyes recording everything. The footage is being broadcast to a mysterious voyeur, a high-tech peeping Tom with as much regard for privacy as Mark Zuckerberg. As the couple continues their steamy evening, Jenny takes control, quite literally. She rips off Matthew's clothes with superhuman strength, flinging his pants across the room like a bullet. Things escalate as Jenny insists on being on top, rocking the bed so hard it smashes into the wall. The aggressive cuddling proves too much for the bed, which collapses into pieces. The next morning, Matthew limps to work as though he needs a lower body replacement, but his wide grin shows he has no regrets. However, his triumph is short-lived when a group of shady gangsters shove him into a car. Inside, Matthew meets the peeping Tom from the night before, who introduces himself as Barry. Barry demands information about Jenny, but Matthew refuses to betray her. Enraged, the gangsters tie him upside down on the Statue of Liberty and blackmail G-Girl, threatening Matthew's life. As the ropes holding Matthew begin to unravel, he plunges toward the ground, but G-Girl swoops in at the last second, catching him in midair. She carries him across the sky to safety. Meanwhile, the criminals break into Jenny's apartment like a pack of creepy stalkers. Barry sneaks into her bathroom and collects strands of her hair, intent on using it to continue his sinister plans. After being saved by G-Girl, Matthew questions Jenny about why a supervillain is after her. Realizing she can't hide her secret identity any longer, Jenny places Matthew in a chair and begins removing her disguise. She takes off her wig, revealing that she's the very same superhero who saved him earlier. Jenny explains that Barry, the supervillain, was once her best friend in high school. Over time, their friendship blossomed into a romance. One night, while stargazing, they witnessed a giant asteroid streak across the sky. Curious, they tracked the impact site and discovered a glowing rock surrounded by flames. Instead of calling the authorities, Jenny impulsively touched the mysterious object. It exploded into 1,000,000 shards, yet miraculously, neither of them was harmed. However, Jenny's body underwent dramatic changes, granting her superhuman abilities. With her newfound powers, Jenny became the most popular girl at school, but began neglecting Barry. She soon left him for the most attractive boy in school, leaving Barry heartbroken and crying in the rain. Hearing this, Matthew immediately conjures up some playful fantasies about dating a superhero. However, Jenny rushes to change into her G-Girl costume, preparing to punish him for being a naughty boyfriend. Grabbing him like a toy poodle, she flies them high above the city. Hovering over the tallest buildings, Jenny teases Matthew by demanding his undivided attention while performing gravity-defying stunts. They dive toward the ground at breathtaking speed, zooming past skyscrapers and causing panic among onlookers. Meanwhile, Barry, now consumed by bitterness, experiments with the strand of G-Girl's hair he collected. He discovers its indestructible nature, but manages to nullify its power using a special stone, allowing him to cut the hair with ease. Sometime later, Matthew supervises a construction site alongside Hannah, his co-worker, who removes a splinter from his finger. The innocent gesture is witnessed by Jenny, who has been following him like an overly attached girlfriend. She marks her territory by licking his cheek in front of Hannah. Trying to diffuse the awkwardness, Matthew proposes a double date with Hannah and her boyfriend. However, on the night of the gathering, Hannah's boyfriend doesn't show up, leaving Jenny glaring daggers at her supposed competition. Their dinner is interrupted by breaking news of a rogue missile heading toward the city. Jenny storms out in anger, transforming into G-Girl to deflect the missile and save the day. While the crowd celebrates, Matthew hugs Hannah in relief, unaware that Jenny is watching from outside. Consumed by jealousy, Jenny confronts Matthew, accusing him of having feelings for Hannah. When he denies it, her frustration boils over, and she smashes a car window in rage. She confesses her overwhelming love for him, but her intensity leaves Matthew frightened. That night, Matthew musters the courage to break up with Jenny over drinks. However, he quickly regrets his timing when he notices a kitchen knife nearby. His fears are justified when Jenny flips the table in anger, hurling him across the room with her superpowers. In her rage, she turns his goldfish into sashimi, but Matthew saves it by tossing it into the sink. Jenny promises revenge before blasting through the roof, leaving a giant hole behind. Matthew is left wondering how to deal with her escalating fury. The next day, Matthew confides in Hannah about the breakup. Just as he's about to express his feelings for her, Jenny appears outside the office window. Acting quickly, Matthew pushes Hannah out of harm's way as G-Girl flies off. However, his manager witnesses the scene and adds more stress to his day. Matthew is soon notified by security that his car has been stolen in a bizarre manner, leaving a gaping hole in the garage. That night, while preparing for a work presentation, Jenny crashes through his roof once again. She reveals her art project, Matthew's car, now floating in space with bizarre decorations. Furious, Matthew calls her crazy. Jenny retaliates by scorching his face, leaving a humiliating symbol on his forehead before flying off. The next morning, Matthew wears a hat to hide his forehead as he heads to work. During his presentation, G-Girl storms in, creating a whirlwind that scatters papers everywhere. When the dust settles, Matthew finds himself completely naked in front of his clients. Mortified, he is fired on the spot. Hannah, feeling sorry for him, invites him to her place. She reveals that she recently broke up with her boyfriend after catching him in bed with multiple women. Matthew comforts her and confesses his feelings, leading to a passionate kiss. Their intimate moment is cut short when Jenny throws a shark through the window, sending it crashing into the room. Matthew narrowly escapes the shark's jaws and manages to push it back onto the street. Realizing the danger Jenny poses, Matthew tells Hannah to leave town for her safety. Desperate for a solution, he seeks out Barry, who surprises him with a shrine dedicated to Jenny. Barry agrees to help and unveils a fragment of the asteroid that gave Jenny her powers. The stone can neutralize her abilities, but they need someone Jenny would never perceive as a threat to lure her into their trap. The next day, Matthew visits Jenny with a bouquet of flowers and immediately apologizes, claiming that he still has feelings for her. After scrutinizing him like a disobedient dog, Jenny forgives him on the spot and agrees to go on another date. Meanwhile, Matthew silently prays for his survival. Later that evening, Jenny arrives at Matthew's apartment and is surprised by the effort he put into their night together, especially the large gift box sitting on the table. The two begin their dinner while, unbeknownst to them, Barry watches from the parking lot. Hannah also arrives at the scene, looking for Matthew. She walks onto the balcony, only to see her boyfriend kissing the enemy. Shocked and furious, Hannah confronts Matthew, who desperately tries to explain the situation, but only ends up upsetting everyone involved, like a true politician. Things take an even worse turn when Vaughn suddenly appears out of nowhere, adding fuel to the fire. Meanwhile, the confrontation between the two women escalates into a physical fight. Hannah rips off Jenny's wig, revealing her true identity as G-Girl. Amid the chaos, Matthew shouts for Vaughn to open the gift. Vaughn does so, revealing a stone that immediately begins absorbing G-Girl's powers. Jenny collapses to the ground as Matthew apologizes profusely. Barry bursts into the apartment, mocking Jenny for losing her powers. However, as villains often do, he talks too much, giving Matthew and Vaughn an opportunity to subdue him. Jenny attempts to recover her powers, but Hannah intervenes. The struggle causes a massive explosion that sends both women flying out of the building. As they fall, G-Girl manages to regain her powers and levitates into the air. She strikes Matthew with incredible force, sending him crashing to the ground. Just as Jenny is about to finish him off, Hannah, who has absorbed some of the powers herself, begins to fly. She launches herself into the air and clashes with Jenny in a furious battle. Hannah manages to push Jenny onto a car, but Jenny counters immediately, throwing her into a nearby billboard. However, Hannah recovers quickly, grabs a street sign, and uses it to knock Jenny into a row of parked cars. Infuriated, Jenny retaliates by picking up a vehicle and hurling it across the street. The car narrowly misses pedestrians and crashes into a storefront. The two women's fight escalates as they transform into spinning twisters, colliding midair in what becomes the most intense catfight in history. Their brawl eventually crashes into a fashion show, leaving the audience stunned. Just as the chaos reaches its peak, Matthew steps in and pleads with them to stop, reminding them of the fear and destruction they're causing. He apologizes to Jenny, explaining that their relationship is over, but reassures her that she deserves someone better, someone who has always been there for her. Matthew reveals that Barry has been in love with her all along, as evidenced by the shrine in his home. Shocked, Jenny demands the truth. Barry confesses that his only goal in taking her powers was to make her love him again. Overwhelmed by his admission, Jenny embraces Barry passionately while the crowd cheers. Taking advantage of the moment, Matthew slips away with Hannah. The two waste no time exploring their new relationship and their superpowers in the bedroom. Their experiment ends with the bed crashing through the wall into the neighboring apartment, turning it into a literal weapon of mass destruction. The next morning, Matthew heads to work with Hannah and is surprised to see Jenny there. As a peace offering, she finally returns Matthew's car, which she had left floating in space. However, their reunion is short-lived. Both women hear reports of trouble in the neighborhood. They quickly transform into their superhero costumes and fly off, leaving their boyfriends behind, holding their purses. So, what do you guys think of this movie? Let me know in the comments below.